Set in the 1930s during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the film kicks off with a young Korean woman named Suk-hee leaving her home to work for a wealthy Japanese family. She had landed the gig as a personal handmaiden to the reclusive Lady Hideko, with a glowing recommendation from a man named Count Fujiwara. The mansion was a strange place, far from the city. The journey from the main gate to the house was a long one, cutting through a dense forest. When she finally arrived, the headmaid, a strict woman named Miss Sasaki, showed her around. Miss Sasaki laid down the house rules. Speak Japanese with Lady Hideko, don't steal, and don't get too friendly. Suk-hee was also informed that she would be sleeping on a bed right in front of Hideko's room. Because of the rules, Hideko would also call her by a Japanese name, Tamako. That very night, Suk-hee was woken up by Hideko's terrified screams. Hideko, who had been having a nightmare, told Suk-hee that she had seen the ghost of her late aunt, who had died by suicide on a cherry blossom tree right in front of her window. After taking her medicine, Hideko asked Suk-hee to sing her a song to help her sleep. The next day, Suk-hee found one of her shoes had been hidden by one of the other servants. When she went to meet Hideko, she was wearing only one shoe, but she presented her letter of recommendation from Count Fujiwara anyway. Hideko, who was surprised that Suk-hee couldn't read the letter, even in Korean, didn't seem to mind and gave her a pair of her shoes. Hideko, in a soft voice, said she would tolerate anything Suk-hee did, but warned her not to lie to her. When they were alone, Hideko, with a mischievous look in her eyes, spoke in Korean. She revealed that she was also Korean and that she was tired of speaking Japanese all the time. Suk-hee soon learned the dark secrets of the house. The mansion belonged to Uncle Kuzuki, a Korean man who had betrayed his country and sided with the Japanese. He had used his deceased Japanese wife's inheritance to build a huge library full of rare, erotic books and antiques. Kuzuki had raised Hideko after her parents died and kept her isolated in the mansion, making her a seemingly innocent and naive woman. After meeting with Suk-hee, Hideko went to her uncle's library for her daily reading practice, while Suk-hee, with a mischievous grin on her face, began to snoop around Hideko's room. Later that afternoon, Suk-hee went to the library to fetch Lady Hideko. She found Hideko being lectured by her uncle, Uncle Kuzuki, in his library. Kuzuki, a fierce and paranoid man, immediately threw Suk-hee out. At the entrance to the library, Suk-hee saw a statue of a snake, a symbol that no one was allowed to enter that room without permission. After her lessons, Hideko went to her room, and Suk-hee prepared a bath for her with flowers and perfume, as Count Fujiwara would soon arrive. While they were chatting, Hideko accidentally bit the inside of her mouth, and Suk-hee, without thinking twice, helped her. In that moment, a strange thing happened. Suk-hee, for a second, found herself staring at Hideko, and an undeniable attraction began to brew between them. A short time later, Count Fujiwara arrived and was greeted by all the servants. He had come not only to meet with Hideko, but also to teach her how to paint. After Suk-hee served him, he gave her a tip, an old coin. A few moments later, a servant told Suk-hee that Fujiwara wanted to see her in the restroom. When they were alone later, their behavior changed drastically. Fujiwara, who had been acting like a nobleman, started doing cartwheels. Suk-hee, who was no stranger to a scam, immediately handed the coin back, telling him that it was a fake. It was then revealed that Suk-hee had not been raised by her family, but by a gang of thieves and con artists. Her mother had been killed, and Suk-hee was taken in by the gang as a baby. She was raised to be a master pickpocket, to forge stamps, and to recognize counterfeit coins. It turns out that Fujiwara was also part of this gang. He told them about his latest plan. He had learned that Uncle Kuzuki was planning to auction off his rare books and paintings to Japanese collectors. But behind that, the man was too in love with his books that he didn't want to give them up, so he planned to make fake books and paintings. But that was not all. Fujiwara also revealed that Kuzuki, a man who had betrayed his country for money, was planning to marry his niece Hideko to get her inheritance, which was worth 1.5 million won in cash and 300,000 in shares. So Fujiwara, who had been impersonating a nobleman, planned to steal Hideko from her uncle, marry her, and get the money. After getting married, he would then declare Hideko insane and put her in a mental institution. Fujiwara promised Suk-hee a cut of the money, 150,000 won, along with Hideko's clothes and jewelry. He then began to train Suk-hee on how to act as a personal servant and how to win Hideko's trust and get her to fall in love with him. He gave her a letter of recommendation, and as seen at the beginning of the film, Suk-hee went to work at the mansion, Back to the present, after Fujiwara called Sukhi to the restroom, he handed her a pair of earrings and gave her a signal. He told her to get a move on and be more aggressive in her plan to make Lady Hideko fall in love with him. Sukhi took the earrings and gave them to Hideko. That night, Hideko got all dressed up in a beautiful gown and wore the earrings Fujiwara had given her. Sukhi was mesmerized and couldn't wait to get her hands on the dress. After a dinner with Fujiwara and her uncle Kazuki, Hideko got a little tipsy. When she and Sukhi returned to her room, she let Sukhi try on the dress. The two women looked at each other in the mirror, and their mutual attraction was undeniable. As Sukhi helped Hideko get out of the dress, Hideko confessed that she knew her uncle wanted to marry her for her money. Sukhi, doing her job, began to persuade Hideko that a man like Fujiwara would be a better husband. The next day, Hideko was a nervous wreck for her painting lesson with Fujiwara. As soon as the class started, Fujiwara got close to her, trying to win her over. He also gave Sukhi a signal, telling her that the apple he was eating was ripe, meaning that she needed to be quicker in her plan. Later for the plan, Sukhi deliberately left Hideko alone with Fujiwara, but as she watched from the window, a strange feeling of jealousy came over her. Sukhi, who knew Fujiwara was nothing more than a con artist, was mad that he was getting so close to Hideko. The next afternoon, Fujiwara invited Hideko to paint in the middle of the forest. He sent Sukhi back to the house for the oil paint he had forgotten. Sukhi, who didn't want to leave Hideko alone, rushed back as fast as she could. But when she returned, she found Hideko and Fujiwara in a compromising position. From that moment on, Sukhi decided to forget her feelings for Hideko and focus on the money she would get from the scam. That night, Hideko called Sukhi to her room and forced her to sleep with her, saying that she wouldn't have nightmares if she was with her. Hideko then confessed that Fujiwara had proposed to her and asked her to run away with him to Japan while her uncle was away. But she said that her gut feeling told her that he was not a good man. After talking and arguing for a bit, the two women, carried away by the moment, gave in to their passion and had a romantic encounter. The next day, Sukhi was the model for the painting lesson. Fujiwara again tried to get Sukhi to leave, but she refused, telling him that she wouldn't leave Hideko alone. Fujiwara pulled her aside and told her that she was ruining their plan to get rich. Sukhi promised to change her ways, but only if he stopped getting so close to Hideko. That night, while massaging Hideko's feet, Sukhi again pushed her to accept Fujiwara's proposal, saying that she was sure Hideko loved him. Hideko, furious, slapped her. She then confessed that she had only loved one person in her life, and that person was, shockingly, Sukhi. She accepted Fujiwara's proposal, but on one condition. Sukhi had to go with them to Japan. Before Uncle Kazuki left for his mining business, he mentioned about the basement and told Hideko to never forget about it. Count Fujiwara also pretended to leave, but he was actually waiting for the right moment to take Hideko and Sukhi away. As planned that night, Hideko and Sukhi snuck out and met Fujiwara at a lake, where they took a boat to Japan. When they arrived, Fujiwara and Hideko got married in a secluded temple. They then stayed at an inn, and Sukhi and Hideko, who couldn't get enough of each other, were intimate whenever they had the chance. On their first night as a married couple, Fujiwara and Hideko slept together. The next morning, Sukhi saw blood on the bed, and her heart sank as she knew what it meant. As the days passed, Fujiwara was often away, saying that he was processing the marriage certificates and collecting the inheritance. Hideko's mental state began to decline as she was left alone in a small cramped inn. Fujiwara, who had a plan up his sleeve, had already paid the innkeepers to spy on the two women to ensure that they didn't run away. One day, Sukhi found Fujiwara, and with her heart set on getting the money, told him that it was time to put Hideko in the mental hospital, just as they had planned from the beginning. That very evening, Fujiwara returned to the inn with a briefcase full of money. The next day, two psychiatrists came to interview Sukhi. They asked her who the woman in the next room was and who Sukhi was. Sukhi, doing her part, told them that the woman was Lady Hideko and that she was her personal servant. She also said that Hideko had a mental illness and that she should be put in a safe place. The psychiatrists, satisfied with Sukhi's answers, told them to get ready to go to the mental hospital. Sukhi was devastated. She was heartbroken that she was about to be separated from the woman she had grown to love. But as they made their way to the mental hospital, Sukhi was shocked when the psychiatrists and nurses arrested her, not Hideko. It was then revealed that Sukhi had been betrayed by both Hideko and Fujiwara. Hideko, who had been listening from the other room, had told the psychiatrists that she was the servant and that Sukhi was the mentally ill woman who believed she was a handmaiden. To prove her case, Hideko gave the psychiatrists a photo of Sukhi's mother and told them that they could use it to calm her down when she got upset. Sukhi, heartbroken and betrayed, was left stunned. Her world had just come crashing down. Now we get a peek into Lady Hideko's perspective, and the story takes a dark turn. From a young age, Hideko was raised under the iron thumb of her uncle Kuzuki. He was a brutal man who would not hesitate to hit her with an iron-tipped whip if she made the slightest mistake. Miss Sasaki, the head maid, also kept a close eye on her, making sure she never misbehaved. The only person who showed Hideko any love was her late aunt. Her aunt, who was also Kazuki's wife, taught Hideko how to read. But even with her help, Kazuki would still physically abuse them for the smallest mistake. The abuse was too much for her aunt to bear, and she eventually died by suicide in the cherry blossom tree. After her death, Kuzuki used her inheritance to build his library, which was full of rare and erotic books. It was revealed that Hideko was forced to read these books and perform for Kazuki's friends who had similar tastes. She was forced to demonstrate the scenes in the books, which involved being whipped and even choked with a strap. After the performance, Kuzuki would auction off the books. One day, Count Fujiwara came to one of these events. After a failed auction, he met with Kuzuki. Kuzuki, who was a cocky man, told Fujiwara that he was going to marry Hideko. Fujiwara, playing his part, gave him some advice on how to win her over. He was then invited over for dinner with Kuzaki and Hideko. Fujiwara had a head start when Kuzaki left them for a while, but Hideko was a tough pick. She didn't budge with Fujiwara's sweet talk. After dinner with Kuzuki and Hideko, Fujiwara went to meet with Hideko in secret. He told her the truth about himself. He was not a nobleman but a con artist and the son of a Korean farmer. He also told her that he had a plan to steal her inheritance and that he would share it with her if she helped him. Hideko, who was a clever woman, told him that she knew about her uncle's plan to marry her for her money. She then told Fujiwara that if they ran away, her uncle would find them and punish them in the secret basement where he tortured people. She even said that her aunt was tortured there for trying to run away. Fujiwara, unfazed, told her that he had a powerful drug that could knock anyone out with just 3 drops of it, or even kill them if taken wholly, and that he would give it to her if she helped him. Hideko, who was finally interested, agreed to the plan, but she added a condition. She wanted to have a sacrificial servant who would take her place in the mental hospital so she could start a new life and forget her past. After Hideko successfully drove out her personal servant, Count Fujiwara tricked Sukhi into taking her place with a promise of a huge payout. But as Sukhi began to care for Hideko, their relationship changed. It was during a tender moment when Sukhi helped tend to a small cut on Hideko's mouth that they first felt a spark. Their romance grew, with Fujiwara completely oblivious to their secret affair. The climax of their relationship came when they had a passionate encounter, and from that moment on, Hideko knew she had to end the con. She felt terrible for deceiving Sukhi and could no longer bear Sukhi's constant urging to marry Fujiwara. Hideko, who had already given many hints that she was in love with Sukhi, was furious when Sukhi still pushed her to marry Fujiwara. Hideko, feeling rejected, slapped Sukhi and went to the cherry blossom tree to take her own life, just as her aunt had. Luckily, Sukhi, who was heartbroken by the slap, found Hideko just in time. She confessed her love for her and told her that she was only there to trick her into marrying Fujiwara. Hideko, seeing Sukhi's sincerity, told her the truth. She had been in on the plan with Fujiwara all along. She revealed that it was Sukhi who was being deceived and not the other way around. Sukhi, furious but also relieved, decided to team up with Hideko. With Hideko's help, she wrote a letter to her gang and sent a real gold bracelet as a down payment for their help. After Uncle Kuzuki left for a business trip, Hideko took Sukhi to the library and showed her the books and the dark past she had to endure. Hideko, with rage in her heart, began to destroy the books and paintings, finally getting her revenge on Kuzuki. After that, they ran away and met with Fujiwara. Sukhi, playing her part, went to the mental hospital, pretending to be insane. Back to the main timeline, Fujiwara revealed his true intentions to Hideko. He showed her a photo of a new luxurious residence and told her that he had prepared a new identity for her. He wanted to get remarried to her under her new name. At the same time, Fujiwara, who was paranoid that Sukhi would find a way to escape, paid the mental hospital staff to slowly get rid of her. The staff's gruesome method was to put cockroaches in her food. But before they could get to her, a fire broke out. It was Sukhi's gang, and their plan was simple. They would use the fire to create a distraction and get Sukhi out. Sukhi, a skilled con artist, used a hairpin to pick her handcuffs, and her friends who had soaked their coats and were wearing gas masks got her out through the flames. Back at the inn, Hideko put 3 drops of the drug she got from Fujiwara into Fujiwara's drink. She then offered him the drink and convinced him to take it. After he drank it, it wasn't long before he passed out. Hideko, who had planned all this, immediately took all the money and left to meet Sukhi. They met at their designated location, and Hideko put on a disguise, dressing up as a man. Sukhi, using her forgery skills, created a new identity for Hideko, who would now be able to travel freely. Hideko then sent a letter to her uncle Kuzuki, blaming Fujiwara for everything, including destroying his library and forcing her to marry him. She also told Kuzuki that she escaped to save herself with the help of her servant, Sukhi. Meanwhile, at the inn, Fujiwara woke up to find 2 of Kuzuki's men, who immediately arrested him. Fujiwara, who had been outsmarted by both Hideko and Sukhi, could only surrender. He was taken to the basement, where a furious Kuzuki tortured him, cutting off his fingers with a paper cutter. Kuzuki, who was curious about Fujiwara's time with Hideko, asked him about their first night together. Before answering, Fujiwara asked for a blue cigarette from his coat pocket, and Kuzuki gave it to him. Fujiwara, with a cunning grin on his face, took a puff. In a flashback, we learn that on their wedding night, Hideko had faked her innocence by using a sewing needle to prick her finger under the sheets, staining them with blood. Fujiwara, who was too arrogant to admit that she had tricked him, never told Kuzuki about it. Fujiwara continued to smoke until the room was filled with smoke. Kuzuki, who was now furious, was about to torture him further when he suddenly collapsed. The blue cigarette was a trap. It was a cigarette filled with mercury. Kuzuki died from the poison, and Fujiwara also died from the smoke, choosing to end his life rather than be tortured to death. The film's final scene shows Hideko and Sukhi on a ship to Shanghai. They were able to get through customs because Hideko was disguised as a man. On the ship, Hideko takes off her fake mustache and throws it and her wedding ring into the sea, symbolizing her new life and freedom. The 2 women are now free to live their lives together, far away from the dark past and the men who had tried to control them.